Okay, so I'm going to record, and that way, those of you that can't open InDesign today, you'll have your notes, and I'll put this recording on the Canvas site that you can also look back at if you need to. But other than that, when we finish today, those of you who can open InDesign, stay on for a moment longer, and I'll see if I can't help you with that. I don't know if I can or not, but we'll try that, okay? I think somebody else had a question.
Oh, jeez. Hang on. I just got on, actually. It just went for me, so.
It started up or it quit?
I just downloaded it today, so it was taking a minute or two to go, but I'm on now, it seems.
Okay, excellent. Good, good. And again, any of these programs from Adobe, because they're so big, will take a lot longer to load the very first time you do. And it also, the other two things are that in between maybe an update and the last time that you opened it, that can slow it down a little bit because it's updating itself. And then the third thing, of course, is that you have to make sure that other programs, so there aren't too many programs open in addition to InDesign, because that's taking up the RAM on your computer. And I guess the fourth one is what Nathan might be running into, is that you have to make sure you have enough physical space on your computer for the program to actually reside there as well. So, you know, all that stuff you have to think about. All right, so let me start here. So we're at a typical the opening window, and we're going to create a new file. So I'm going to click on that. There we go. All right. So now I get this option of choosing a different size artboard like we're used to. And it kind of doesn't really matter what size we pick. But I'm going to go at the top here and say I'm going to create a layout for print. And then I'm going to choose just a standard 8.5 by 11 or letter size artboard. So those things would be similar to what we're used to with Illustrator. Now, if you look over on the right-hand side, we can also choose a couple of other things that are important to us for layout. Okay, and one of them is the number of pages. So I'm going to have us put in, let's see, let's put in 10 pages here to begin with. And let's have the orientation vertical. And down below the orientation icons, there's something called facing pages. So this, we might call that a spread. So if we opened up a book or a magazine or anything with multi-pages, facing pages are the left and right-hand pages that are open to us, you know, like that. And so InDesign is going to create our artboards essentially, either so that we can see the right and left-hand pages of a spread, or if I uncheck the facing pages, I will only see one page at a time. So let's create the facing pages here for this one. And then we have some other things down here below. Start numbering the pages in page 1. We're going to come back to that, the numbering of pages later on, but for right now, just leave the default at 1. And then below that, we see the number of columns and column gutter. So the gutter is the amount of space between the columns. And when there's one column, that just means it's going to make a text box that is essentially equal to the printable area on a page. Let's divide that up, though. Let's divide it up into not just one column, but 3. And so while we're here, you can make any number of columns that you want. But I would say that for layout purposes and the creativity that can happen in layout, I usually think that if you have an uneven number of columns, it's going to allow you some more options in terms of dynamic layout. So that would be like 3, 5, 7, some cases 9. But 3 is the most common, and again, then 5. And after, above that, uneven ones get a little bit more specific to a magazine, house style, or something like that. So let's put 3 columns for right now. Again, an uneven number of columns. And then let's leave the space between the columns right now at 1p0. And 1p0 stands for 1 pica, 0 points. And I need to get us, with this assignment, we need to be familiar with what the point and pica system is. Oh, I skipped over this. Up at the top where it says units, let's put let's put the number of units. Let's put that in points. And notice that down here where I was just talking about the gutter, I said it was 1p0. I said that was 1 pica and 0 points. Well, now since I changed the number of units or the system that's of measurement in there to points, now it's not 1 pica, it's 12 points. So right off the bat, that should tell us that 12 points equal 1 pica. It's kind of like 12 inches equals 1 foot. So points are extremely tiny, and they're useful to us in layout because they're the same system of measurement vertically that we use for type and leading. And leading is the more important one here. And so in this case, we're using that same system to determine sizes and relationships between things across the entire page, not just leading. So I'm going to come back to that several times, but this is the first place we kind of encounter it. So your units of measurement should be in points. The amount of space between columns right now is 12 points, and the number of columns are 3. We've got 10 pages we're dealing with. The vertical letter size. Okay, so since we have that now, I'm going to say create. And the first thing we see is a single page. And you might say, well, I thought he just told us that if we put it in facing pages, we would see a page side by side. Why am I only seeing 1 page? I see it divided into 3 columns. I see the gutter space there, but I'm only seeing 1 page. And so what I need to do here is under window, I want to view the pages window. So when I select that, I'm going to get, let's see, so when I do that, I'm going to see this. I'm going to see a single page up at the top with the word none to the far left. Underneath it, I see something called the A master with 2-page little icons. Then I see a very faint light gray line. And below the gray line, I see a blue rectangle that stands for page 1. And then I do see side by side or spreads till I get to page 10, and it's by itself, but it's on the left side of this vertical line. Page 1 is blue, so it's indicating that's the page I am currently on. I can go from one page to another either by scrolling down, and there's a spread and so forth, or I can click on or double click on any one of these and it will take me to that spread. So in this case, it's showing me the right hand or page 5 of this spread, page 4 and 5. Maybe I'll make this a little smaller here. There we go. So I just zoomed out a little bit so you can see here's the actual artboard for page 1. Here's the spread 2 and 3 and so forth. So I can move this down, but until I click on any one of these, the icons over here don't change. You can see I'm moving this, that's not changing. As soon as I click on this one, It's now going to the spread for page 6 and 7. The reason I want to spend a little more time talking about that right now, because it's about navigating from one spread to another. How do you get there? And you can actually get there in two different ways. One by scrolling this down and clicking on the page you want, or using the page icon window and clicking on, or excuse me, double clicking on the page that you want to go to. Right now, because I have nothing on any of these pages, over here, it's hard to know what page I'm on because they all look the same. So this is a little more useful in that respect. So I'm going to pause here for a second and make sure that everybody is with me on this one. So are there any questions about what we're looking at over here in the pages window, or any questions about over here what we're looking at in this main window? Anyone?
Yes, I'm sorry. So why are they both together?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Why are there two together?
Okay, so it's a perfect question. I was hoping somebody would ask this. So when you open a book, all the book starts on a right-hand page. The story begins on a right-hand page. There are no books where the stories begin on a left-hand page. And so that's why this page corresponds to that first page of the story. It might be the title page, whatever it is, but it's a right-hand page. If we opened a magazine, the cover opens, and then the magazine begins on a page on this side. So that's the reason for that. And then when we turn page 1 over, this is the back of page 1, which is now page 2. And so when we open that book up, we're seeing a spread, a left and right-hand page together, and then this line down the middle, that's the spine, where if it's a magazine, the pages are stapled together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, so we only did this layout for this specific project, right? It's not that we usually do this layout.
You mean in terms of the number of columns or what?
Yeah, the columns, the book.
Well, again, we use inDesign primarily for multi-page layout. So we are looking at a multi-page layout this way because most books are bound together by either sewing or stapling in the middle of one sheet of paper that is folded.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, now we have other books, however, where they're not folded pages. So remember when we were back at that setup page, I had us check the facing pages option, and we would normally choose facing pages because we know how the book is going to be put together in the end. Okay, so there's some other language I'll start to use later. I'm refraining from using that now, but these are called signatures and everything else. So signature includes, well, let me ask you this. If I have one piece of paper, and I'm going to put, and I'm going to print it for a book, how many pages can I put on one piece of paper? Clock's ticking. I can hear someone's clock ticking. How many pages? Any guesses?
How many pages could go on one paper?
Yeah, on one piece of paper.
2.
4.
How many?
2.
Not yet. There's more. How many?
4.
Wait, on what's the size of paper are we talking about?
One piece of paper. How many pages will be on it?
3.
4.
Who said 4?
Wait, wouldn't it depend on the?
Piece of
Maybe-
paper. One piece of paper. How many pages?
Well, 2. One, or depending on what page starting you're talking about, right?
Well, that's true. If it's the first page, just well, actually, how many on the first page? First piece of paper. How many pages?
Well, there would be the first page and then the second page, the other side of it.
2.
Mhm.
Correct. So how many pages would be on this spread here, a piece of paper? Sorry.
How many pieces of paper?
One piece of paper that contains the spread. How many total pages?
4.
4. Why?
Because there's one page on this side that we're not seeing, and then there's this one, and then there's the other 2.
Yeah, on the front and back of the piece of paper.
'Cause
Jasmine
it's
got
one
it.
piece of paper, but there's 2 pages here and there's 2 pages on the other side.
Exactly. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm making us do this because we have to visualize what we're looking at, right? We have to make that connection between what we're seeing on the screen and what we're actually doing with it after we print it out. So in this case, if we're looking at this spread, we would see page 2 over here, page 3 over here, and then on the back of that piece of paper, we would see 2 more pages. Now the problem is, and let's see, I'm going to have to take us out of this for just a minute so that I can show you something. Okay, so you can all see me, right? So here's a piece of paper. I fold it in half. Okay, and I take another piece of paper, fold it in half. And if I want to staple these together into a book, I'm going to take this one and put it in here, right? So
It's
now,
hard to see with your background.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me change it. We'll go to just nothing.
Your book was disappearing into the background.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay, is that better? Okay, so I have, let me do that again. So here's one piece of paper folded in half, another piece of paper folded in half. When I'm going to make a book out of this, I put one inside the other, right? So now I can staple it along the spine. Now, if I'm going to number the pages, so I have to do this here. Here's page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, so here we have, there's page 1. So we've got a little dummy here. Here's page 1, page 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8's back here. Now when I disassemble the book to see the actual piece of paper, page 2 is not next to page 3. Page 1 isn't next to page 2. 6, in fact, is next to 3. 4 is next to 5. And I was like, oh my God, what kind of magic is going on here? This is called imposition. Okay, and what it means is we have 2 different kinds of spreads. We design using inDesign, creating designer spreads. If we printed out what's on page 2 and on page 3 right side by side, if we printed it out that way and then tried to make the book out of it, everything would be out of order, right? Everybody's along with me on that? Okay, so what happens is we create designer spreads because to try to think in that jumbled way when we're working would just be ridiculous. So we design based on what we want to see in the book. When we print from inDesign, so I'm jumping kind of to a last stage here for a second, then we don't do a normal print button. We do a print booklet option. And when we do that, we make some choices about how is the book going to be bound and so forth. And luckily for us, inDesign will reposition our designer spreads into printer spreads. So when we print it, inDesign will move what was on page, actually, not 4, 5, page, like here, we'll move them to the correct location for that piece of paper. And so again, I'm jumping to the final stage for this so that we have an overall big picture view of what's going on. And then we're going to come back here now and break it down to get there. But I want you to at least have some general overview of what's going on before I go into that, because you probably wonder why. But I also don't want to just plain confuse you. So does it kind of make sense? Does anybody have any question on this thing from designer spreads to printer spreads, or why the order is different? Maybe why is this correct would be another question. Does anybody have any thoughts on any of that? Like, why is this one okay? Why is 4 next to 5 on this one? Why, Madison?
In the middle.
It's in the middle. It's in the middle, exactly. So whatever spread is in the exact middle of the book, you will see on that piece of paper, the pages next to each other, we would expect to be next to each other on that piece of paper. But it's the only spread in the entire book where that occurs, because it's in the middle. This is where the stapling would actually, we would see the staple here. We wouldn't see the staple, here, because this isn't in the middle. All right, let me go back to the screen. Okay, so we are creating designer spreads. This is a left and right hand, also known as the verso and the recto pages, which goes all the way back to those crazy Egyptians that were writing on scrolls on the front and back of a piece of papyrus. It was the verso and the recto, and it still is the technical name for the right and left hand page of a book, which we should correctly call a codex, C-O-D-E-X, because books can be all sorts of different things. They still could be a scroll. They could be all sorts of things, but the kind of book that's bound the way we traditionally think of a book is, its real name is a codex. And the page numbers are the verso and the recto. It's their real names. All right, you can amaze your friends with that trivia knowledge. So let's see, where do I want to go here next? Let's start with the basic text tools that should look somewhat familiar to us. So over here on the left-hand side, we see the T tool, and we see a number of tools that have the little white arrow in the lower right-hand corner, which is our visual clue that there are options behind it. So in here, in inDesign, the option that I have for the type tool is the type on a path tool. I don't have the type in a shape tool or those other ones, but I do have those two. And the reason would be because this isn't a graphics program. Its strength isn't graphics. So any kind of thing that we will see where it doesn't have as many variations in here that we might be used to in Illustrator, if we ask ourselves why, we'll probably come up with the reason that, oh, that's an additional graphic option. And so again, the strength here is not as strong. It's pretty good with graphics, but it's not as strong as Illustrator. Now, the same thing that we will notice, though, as we go along, is there'll be other things that we can do with the layout that we couldn't do in Illustrator, and that's, again, because the strength here is layout. All right, so the text tool, the line tool, the pen tool, the pencil tool, all of those you should be quite familiar with. Then we're going to get down here to two rectangles, one that has an X in it and one that doesn't. The one that does not has options. Actually, they both have options, but the regular one has options. It'll make a rectangle, an ellipse tool, a circle, and a polygon tool. We don't see the rounded rectangle tool that was in Illustrator, but we have these options for making shapes. So there's some graphic shapes that we can make here using that tool. Well, what's the Xbox tool, or its real name is a rectangular frame tool? That tool is what we do to create an image container when we want to bring images into inDesign. And I want to say, I believe I said this with Illustrator, but I might not have emphasized it as much as I should have. And that is, even though you can cut and paste or copy and paste and place images in both Illustrator and within inDesign, you actually shouldn't do that. What you should do with Illustrator is use the place command. And in here, what you should do is create an Xbox or rectangular frame. I will call it the Xbox, but I just need to make that first. It makes an X there, and then you go to File and use the place command. So you're still using the place command, but you want to make that Xbox first. And when we start working with images, I'll help you understand why. But for now, I just want to point out some of the differences between a few of these tools. So that's for bringing in images. It's its only use. The options are instead of a rectangle Xbox, you might have an oval Xbox or a polygon X polygon. So it's the same options for shape that we see under here to make shapes. In this case, though, the difference is these are to bring images in. Let's see. We have the same fill and stroke options down here dealing with color, but you will see we have some other variations of color, but they're mostly the same as what you're used to there. And we have our direct selection tool and our selection tool. Those two variations that you're used to now, they work pretty much the same. Okay, so what I want to do, I think here first, is I want to help us understand a little bit more the relationship between what we're seeing out here on these layout artboards and the page thumbnail icon over here, and specifically the above the gray line, which are master pages. So we're going to go there first. So I want you to click on the right hand A master page. So double click on it so you actually go to that page. And on there, let's take the box tool and put a box there. And let's double click on the fill and just give it a fill color. So I've got a green box on this right-hand page. But I did it on the master right-hand page. And if you now look at all of your right-handed pages down here, you'll see that all of them now have a green rectangle on them. And the reason, what this tells us is that something on a master page will appear on all of the corresponding pages, whatever side that I clicked on up here, the right-handed page in this case. So all of the odd numbered right-handed pages have that thing on it. When I go to any one of those pages, so I'm now on page 5, I don't want that green box there, I want to move it, and I can't move it. The reason that I can't move it is it wasn't created there. It was created on the master page. If I do want to still move it though, and I know that it was created on the master page, then I need to kind of release it. So if I go, I'm on that page. I'm on page 5 in this case. And under the options, I go up there and I say, override all master page items. Now, this is another Adobe program where if I were running the show, I would label it differently. I would say unlock all the master page items, because that's in fact what we're doing, because it acts like it's locked. So if I click on that and now I'll come back here, I can now take that box and move it. I can delete it. I can do any of those things because I've unlocked it. But the command is override. And I do it by selecting the page of the thing that I want to unlock, and I go to the options of that window and come down to override. Now what that will do is essentially, because I'm going to have more than one thing on there usually, it's going to unlock all of them. So now you have to be careful. If I only wanted to move the green box and there's other things there that I don't want to move, be careful that you don't disturb them. Okay. All right, I'm going to bring that guy back. And let's do this now on the left hand A master page. And over here, we're going to use the line tool. And let's go down here at the bottom and draw a line across and hold the shift key down so that it stays perfectly horizontal. And then let's go to the stroke window, under window, stroke. And we're going to increase that so it's a little thicker so it's quite easy to see. And you'll see that there are a couple of other options down below here that we haven't seen before in Illustrator. We still see the cap choices, but we actually see an additional cap choice that wasn't in Illustrator. And so the first one where there's a point and the cap ends right there, and then there's a rounded one, and then there's a point and the line actually extends a little bit past it. So what I'd like you to do is take the zoom tool and zoom in closer to the end of the line that you just created. So I've zoomed all the way in here so that I can see where the point actually is and the line ends at that spot. So that's the first option. So if you select the last one, you'll see that, oh, the end point of that line is now out here. Oh, sorry, but the line was originally, sorry, let's go back here to this. So I'm not changing the length of the line by pulling it out. I'm simply selecting this other option of how the line ends. And, you know, it's an option there. And then the other one is the rounded cap. And so you can see that changes to the rounded line, and you should be used to that one. So these two options here, I can't easily give you an example of when you would do this one versus this. But later on, as we're into the program more, I think that I can show you that. But right now, that's just an option we haven't seen before. The miter limit has to do with corners. So we're not going to see anything change here right now because I don't have any corner there. And so let's do that. So I'm going to click on this endpoint here and then extend the line up. So I now have a corner here. Whoops. I now have a corner down here. So if I go to the join or the corner, and this is the corner we currently have. If I click on this one, it's now rounded, which I would normally use in combination with this up here. And then this one is a bevel joint. So it makes the corner, but it creates an angled or beveled kind of edge. So that's what those options are about. I'm going to go back to the first normal one. And then the align the stroke is perhaps, I wish this one was also in Illustrator. So we can see right now on this, the spine or the original line that is in the middle of the width of the line. If I click on this one, then the line itself falls to the outside of that spine, and this one, it falls to the inside of that spine. So why this is helpful and why I think it would be good in Illustrator to include is that now you can, by where you draw the line, you can be very, very precise about how it ends or begins and how it fills. So for example, right now, if I select this one and I continue to increase its weight, it's going to grow to the inside. It's not growing further to the, the outside. It's not getting thicker to the outside. By the same token, if I click on this one and increase the weight, it's going to, oh, sorry, the default one, it grows from the center. And this one is now going to grow from the inside out. So again, this is a way that you can line shapes up or very, very precisely, depending upon which option you select there. Under line, we have different types of line that you might choose, from double lines, triple lines, decorative lines, dashed lines, wavy lines, and so forth. They are all there. We have the start and end points, which are the arrows that we looked at on the technical drawing. Those are the same options you have. We can scale, though, the arrows. And so let's put, see, I guess I'm at the other end of the line. Here is an arrow. So now it's way too big for us. So if I'm going to scale it down, and so the line weight is staying the same, but the arrow is getting smaller. And instead of this option, I'm going to go back to here. And I really just need the line longer to see it, I guess. But you get the idea. I can scale the size of the arrowhead on the line. That's what that's about. And with these, these have to do with if it's a dashed line, and you can change the amount of space between the parts of the dash. So those are options for that line. I'm going to take this off. And we're going to take, with the minus pen, I'm going to take this point off here, so it's just a straight line. So what we should have now is a straight line across the bottom of the left-hand master page. Okay. Okay, and since, I think I did that, yeah, since it is on the master page, and we can't, since it's a small item, we can't easily see it on the icons for the other pages, but if you double-clicked on any left-hand page, you will see that that item is there, and in fact, you can't move it because it was a master page element. Okay, all right, I need to pause there for a second. Any question on this so far? Okay, then what we're going to do next is using the master page elements are page numbers. So I'm going to be on the, and this isn't necessarily saying what the pages, what their numbers are. It's determining the look of the pagination on each page. The look, the position, so that's in the same each time, and so forth. All right, so I'm on the left-hand page again. Double-click double-click it, so I'm on the master page. And I'm going to use my text tool and just click anywhere on there right now so that I have a little text box. The icon is sitting there blinking, waiting for me to do something. Then if we go under under type, and come down towards the bottom where it says insert special characters. So we've got three options there: insert special character, insert white space, and insert break character. We want to go to special character. And then we're going to go over to the right and go down to markers. And we're going to say current page number. Okay, so I'm going to say that, pause there for a second. So you can all find it. So it should be under type, towards the bottom, insert special character, then markers, and then current page number. Okay, now you can see as we're still there, there are several other options that show up in either one of those other pullouts. For example, under where it says insert special character, we went to markers. If you look right below it, it says hyphens and dashes. So you'd find and N as well as M dashes there. After quotation marks, you would find typographic marks or curly quotes, that kind of thing, as well as just ditto things. So notice that. Under symbols, you will find other alternative symbols like the tilde, the cedilla, those kinds of things. So that's another place where you can locate those. And then under the far right one, where we're going to current page number below, we could be talking about the next page number or the previous page number, and something called sections. Sections are kind of like chapters, but they're a bigger grouping. So you might have in section 1, 2 or 3 chapters. Chapter 1 through 5 is in section 1, and chapter 6 through 10 is in section 2. And that might, I'm pointing that out because we're doing a book where you have several stories in the one book. And you might choose to divide those up just by chapters, but you might also choose to divide them up by chapters where you group the chapters. Let's say you have 2 mystery stories that you want to include in a section called mysteries, and you have 3 stories that are, I don't know, documentaries, so you include them in that section. So it's a way to further divide things up. All right, we're just doing current page number right now. I'm going to click on that and choose it. And what I can see now, if I zoom in a little closer, I've now made an A. So there's just an A there. I'm going to click and highlight it. And I'm going to do Command T to get my character window to come up. You should all be familiar with that one, but if not, for right now under type, go to character and you'll see this window. So in there, we're going to make the size something obnoxiously big so we can see it quite easily. And I have an A on the left master page. Now, if you go to any left-hand page down here, you will now see its actual page number. It's not an A. So the A on page 4 becomes a 4. The A on page 6 becomes a 6, and an 8 on page 8, and so forth. Okay? Does nothing to the right-hand page. So what we're going to do is go back up here to the master page on the right-hand side this time, double-clicking it. I'm going to, again, take my text tool, make a text box, and say insert special character, markers, current page number, has a little A there. I'm just going to make it bigger so that we can see it easily. No, what's that? I said 48, I think, something like that. So now when I go to a right-handed page, I see its actual number. So page 5 has a 5 on it. Page 9 has a 9 on it. Okay? Now, since they are master page elements, on page 9, I cannot move the 9. If I want to move this to another location, I do it on the master page. So it makes sense over here to have the folio information, which includes a page number, perhaps in one of several locations, in the lower right-hand outside outside corner of the spread. So on the right-hand page it'd be over here. On the left-hand page, it would be over. Let's go up here for it. On the left-hand page over here, right-hand page over here. It might be in the center and the bottom. It might be in the center and the top. Those are, and sometimes center on the side. Those are typical locations where we might find the page numbers. Some books they only number the right-hand pages. So if that's the case, I just don't put something on the master page over here for the numbers. Some pages in magazines also, they number all the pages except the pages that have a full page illustration on it. So let's say I go to page 7, and on page 7, I have a full bleed photograph. I don't want this 7 over the top of my photograph. So on page 7, I would go to the options, and I'd override master page elements. Now I can select the 7 and delete it. So it still is page 7. It just doesn't have a number on it. Okay? All right, again, I need to pause here a second, make sure I haven't lost anyone. Anybody need me to repeat anything? And I'm not seeing all of you right now on my screen. So if you have a question, just go ahead and shout it out.
So for that, for the numbers, we just go to the master page and then insert special character markers and current page number, and then it should automatically do it.
There you go.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
And oh, I didn't do this for you though. So let's go back to the master pages. Here's that A. If I want that to look differently, I change the look of the numbers by applying it to the A. So if I want it to show up in a different typeface, my default was Minion, then I do it here. So I'm going to, let's see, something that would dramatically look different. Let's I'll put emoji in. Okay, that's not going to help us. We'll do American Typewriter. Okay, so now the A is in that typeface. And when I go to a right-hand page, the number is in that typeface. So any change of size, anything that you could change for, make changes on a letter will, on the master page, will affect the number that is on the actual page. That was real awkward the way I said that, but I think you can see that, right? So Nathan, did you have any other question on that part?
No, that was it. Yeah, I was just clarifying that.
That works? Okay, very good. Thanks for having it. Just clarified. I used the word folio here a moment ago when I talked about this page number. So a folio has more than just a page. A page number is a part of a folio information. So folio information varies from book to book, magazine to magazine, usually based on something that is called either the house style or the style of that particular publication. So let me talk about the style of the publication first, because that's the easiest. So I might have the book that you are creating. You are not a publishing company. So you were pretending you're publishing this one and one only book. Maybe you're self-publishing it. And so you can decide the look, the style, the brand of yourself as a publishing company, whatever you want it to be. But like anything, you want to have a consistent brand. So if I chose this typewriter typeface here, I probably am doing that because I want to reference something like, oh, I don't know, older, quirky technology or something to that effect. If I picked a sans serif typeface there, it might be for typical reasons like, well, I want it to look clean, modern, contemporary. If I picked an old style Roman serif typeface, I might say, well, I want to reference something like tradition and readability. So you're making these little design decisions based on the look or the brand or the style for the whole book. And the folio information is the first place that I'm going to start talking about this. And then we're going to expand on applying that look to other places as well. But the folio containing a page number, so let's use my example I just said. I've picked this typewriter looking typeface because I want my book to overall have a look of kind of quirky old style tech. Okay, that's the style I want. So I've made that there. Now I'm also on all the, since this is on page 9, and again, all of the odd numbered pages are a right-handed page, a verso. And so I'm going to do some other things with the folio in addition to the page number to indicate the brand. So I'm back on my master page. I've double-clicked it. Here's the A. That's now at least now I have a visual symbol that tells me I'm on the master page because it's not a number, it's an A. Oh, and I'm sorry, and I didn't say this either. It's an A because I'm on the A master. We can have more than one master page. If I had a B master, this would be a B. But that's why it's an A. Okay, so back to the branding thing. I might decide that all of the right-handed pages, I'm going to include the name of the book as well as the page number. So I'm going to decide that the name of my book is, what am I deciding this on? It's Steampunk. Okay, and I'm putting an M dash between it and this A. And I'm going to locate it right there. And I'm going to take the A and change it from condensed light to be semi-bold. Okay, so now I'm going to go to page 7 and see what that, to page 5 and see what that looks like. So here it is. There's the name of the book or magazine that's going to occur on every right-hand verso or right-hand side of the spread. And it's in this version of my typeface, a condensed light version. And then the folio number, the page number, sorry, the page number is in this bold regular version of it. Okay, so that started to push out my brand a little bit further. But it is also doing something else. As a folio, it's giving me more information, and it's only on the right-hand page. So let's go back to the left-hand page, and I'm not going to put the name over here. Over here, I'm going to put the page number. And again, I want to brand it the same. So I can do this in a couple of ways. I could change it over here, but what I'm going to do instead is delete that one, grab this, hold my Option or Alt key down, and just drag it over. And so I have the same treatment over here that I had on the right, but I've already said I'm not going to have the name of the book over here, so I'm just going to delete that and just have the page number over there. So I could just do that. I just number the pages on the left and have the page number and the name of the book on the right. The other thing I can do though is I can have on the, let's do it this way. I'm going to leave this on the right hand, excuse me, on the left hand, and on the right hand side, I'm going to take this off and put chapter names because new chapters will always begin on a right hand page. And I'm going to say, I don't know, we'll just say chapter 1. Okay.
Is there going to be like some like type of thing that would like tell us all this like when we're making our book? Like, because I would not have known that, you know?
To tell you what?
Like that the chapter had to be on like the right side of the page down on the bottom.
This is not a rule. I'm giving you examples of how to change the brand and where you do that.
Okay.
Okay. If you look closely at any magazines that you have, any books that you have, some of them will do You'll see if you have 15 books, they'll probably do it in 15 different ways because they're each different books. And what they are each doing is treating the folio differently. It's kind of like, well, every one of those books has a cover, but none of the covers look the same. They all look different, right? And so what this is, it's a design decision to, I kind of emphasize the brand, I guess, showcase or indicate the brand. And we're talking about it at a very introductory level on just the folio information. And I'm also telling you or giving you examples of what might be in the folio information. So my first examples here are, well, I'm going to have the chapter names on the right. I'm going to have the name of the book on the left. But I could have decided, well, I'm going to have the name of the book on both sides. I could also say I'm not going to have the name of the book at all at the bottom. I'm going to have the name of the chapter on the left-hand side. No, I'm going to have the name of the chapter on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, I'm going to have, what am I going to have? I'm going to have, oh, I know. This doesn't work for a book, but it does for a magazine. I might have the name of the chapter on the right, and if it's a magazine on the left, I might have the month. So this is the April issue, April 2020, I have on the left, and on the right, I have the name of the chapter, or the book, or the magazine. You know, it's all of those different things that you have choices that you can make. Did that just muddy things up, or does that make sense, Nathan?
Oh, yeah, it's making a little bit more sense. I just didn't know if if it had to be in specific like a template or whatever.
Yeah, good. It's really a good question, and please keep asking those when they come up if I don't make it clear off, and I didn't make that clear. So what I'm trying to do right now is give you examples of these things while I'm telling you where you can make these changes. So the main thing that we're talking about is the things that you might put typically on a master page. Folio is one of those things. Then what could be in a folio? Typically the page number is a part of it. And then you might have the chapter name, the name of the book, the volume number, the publishing company, the month that it was published, the author's name. Those are examples of the kind of information that you might have in any combination here on the folio. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. All right. So now I think let's leave that special area for right now. That's enough to make us dangerous, I think. So let's figure out, how do we bring in text? So you should have been reading through the different stories that you have. And hopefully you've narrowed those down at least to a smaller number. But you're going to flow that text into the layout of inDesign. And we're going to do that first, flowing text, by using dummy text. It's sometimes called Greeking. It's known by a variety of different names, but we're going to do that first. And so we're going to leave the master pages. We don't want to do this on the master pages. So we're going to go to page 1. So I double click there. And to tell you the truth, let's get rid of this green box. So I'm going back to there and selecting that guy and getting rid of the box. And go to page 1. Okay. What I need to do here is make a text box. And since I have 3 columns, I want to go make a text box in column 1. And I'm just going to do that first. So I've just drawn it here from the left-hand, top left, and over to the right-hand, the left-hand side of the gutters, the double lines. Don't go to, so we want to leave that, that's blank space, the space between text. We're going to create text here, and text here. 3 columns. So I have, it's up there blinking, waiting for me to bring in text. So I'm sorry, I forgot to set this up for us ahead of time, but I think we can still do it. I'm going to do place command, and I need text. Where do I have some text I can just use? Yeah, I apologize. I forgot I didn't set this up.
Professor, isn't there an option to fill with placeholder text?
Yes. Yes,
type window.
Absolutely. I kind of, yeah, let's do that first and I'll come back to this. So we've got this sit there blinking, and I guess that's what I was going to start to do, and then I changed my mind. So under type, down here towards the bottom, it says fill with placeholder text. So I'm just going to click on that one, and we see text now fill up in it. It's nonsense words. So it fills it up as far as that column is concerned, and then it ends. Now you'll notice when you click on that text with the selection arrow, you have the normal handles, but you also have an additional handle right down here, this larger box. You also have an additional box up here that's yellow. So I'm going to click on this box right here, the larger one. Just click on that, and you'll see that my cursor changes to what looks like tiny, tiny, tiny little text. And if I click up in this column now, it actually tried to insert some more text, but there wasn't any more to go there. But if I come back to this column, again, with my select arrow, and grab a handle at the bottom and drag it up, it's going to reflow the text over into the next column. So it's like kind of like a window shade. I don't know if we're all familiar with what window shades do, but you know, pulling it up or down. And as you pull this one up, it's forcing the text over into the next column. And as I bring this down and open it up, that text flows back into the first column. So what I've done by clicking on that little white box, and now you'll see there's a tiny, tiny little blue arrow in there, meaning that it is linked to another column. And this one, now if I click on here, you'll notice way down at the bottom of its column, there is a white box, but it doesn't have a blue line or arrow in it because it's not connected to anything yet. Well, I'm going to click on that to load it up, and then I'm going to go to page 3 and click. And now this is linked back to this first page. So if I make this text window smaller so that all of the text can't fit here, so I've made these shorter, let's say up to there. Since this has the little blue arrow in it, it means that it's linked to or connected to this other column of over here on page 3. And sure enough, there's the rest of that story. So it's pushed it over here. And if we go back to this page, we see just the first part of the story, and it continues over to that next one, as if on this page right here, maybe I wanted a large image. There's a photograph, there's a drawing there or something. Okay? And so what I do first is I bring the text in. Let's back this up to here. Okay, and yeah, that works fine. So normally what you would do is you decide how many columns you want to work with. And you can change this as you go, but I would first suggest selecting an uneven number of columns. Does this mean that I have to put the text in these narrow columns like this? And the answer is no. So I can take this and spread it across 2 columns like that and have it placed on these first 2 columns or on these 2 first columns, or I can take it, in fact, all the way across all 3 columns like that. Whoops, come on. Helps if I have the arrow. There we go. Okay, so I can go all across here. And then at other times, I might just have 1 or 2 columns. So that's why even if you are primarily going to have your text go mostly all the way across the page, still set up an uneven number of columns for your grid. And 3 is the most common one that will allow you some options. Okay, so I have this going, so I'm flowing this text in here. Actually, what I want to do now is I'm going to take this out and use real text. So I've got this set up for me to bring in some text. So I'm going to go to File and Place and locate the story that you want to use. So I'll just pick this, I think. Okay, then this is going to, it's using a different typeface. That doesn't matter to me right now. I'm just going to say okay. And so here is that text. And so it's in here and it comes down to that place, but that little box that's in the lower right-hand corner, that when we first did this was blank. And the second time it had a blue arrow. Now it has a red arrow. What that means is that there's more text to the story than what we're seeing. And if we want to see the rest of the text, we need to click in that red box and then go to another page and click and insert it. Okay, so then it continues down, and I need to make that text box go up to there, I guess. And in this case, that's all of the text. Okay, if there were more, then, oh, sorry. No, we've got more of it down here. Yeah, so there is more. Because it has the red box there with the little plus sign in it. So I click on that one, load up the icon again, go to the next page, and click. So that flows. And I continue to do this, and I shape the, since my grid is a 3-column grid, if I just click in there, it's going to think I want that single column. So then I might have to drag it across all 3 or just 2 or move it over or whatever you want to do according to how you want to design the book. But the main thing that I want to get across right now is how do you get the text into the book? And what you do is you click with the text tool in the first column. You use the place command, File and Place, locate your text and click and it will flow. And then you look for the little red box with the plus in it on the bottom right-hand corner. Click on that. Okay. So then click on that to load it up, and then you can go to the next page and flow it in. Okay, and you continue to do that. Now there's some other options of flowing the text in, but this is the most basic one. There's an auto-flowing text. There's some other things as well, but and you certainly can look at those things. But I believe that starting at this point, is the easiest to get a handle on it, and then we can complicate it or massage it into something that you ultimately really want. So I'm kind of thinking that's all I want to introduce to you right now. So let me check with you here. Do you want me to repeat any steps, either from what I just did flowing in text or anything earlier? Obscene, does your cat have it down? You're muted, but I'm assuming you're saying yes. Anybody else? Their pets have got this down so they can help you out when you get lost? Okay.
I was trying to write everything down, and he's really just either wanting to be on top of me or on top of my keyboard, and I'm
Yes,
trying to hold him back, but
demanding attention there. Yes, I totally get it.
he slept all day and now he wants attention.
Yeah. So, Lolly?
I was just gonna say, I noticed the can, it's just looking straight on into the video, like, so grumpy looking. The grumpy looking thing.
Grumpy looking?
He's watching the cursor and what you're doing.
Oh, he's watching the
Oh.
cursor. Because I could just see him looking, it looks like he's looking directly at the video, and I thought it was just funny. So.
Yeah, it's something to play with. Everything's a toy. Anybody else? I'm gonna stop sharing for the moment so I can gauge if I'm actually making any sense here.
So I have a quick, it's not about the like actual InDesign program, it's just about the assignment.
Okay, sure.
So okay, I looked at the instructions, but I didn't understand, or maybe I didn't see, but we picked 5 of those stories,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
But how do we put all of those in the
Yes, you're going to use all 5 and bring them into the book just like I just demonstrated.
Oh, it's it's basically a short story book, like a book where it has like several short stories.
Correct.
Writing.
They're so sad.
Sorry?
They're so sad.
Some of them were kind of okay. Some of them were interesting.
They're disturbing.
Disturbing.
Some of them are disturbing.
No, this
I
is
like
the
the
kind of stuff my high school teacher would have put. I read the lottery. I saw the last time
I read
the
that in high school
lottery.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like, oh, so this is the kind of stories he's going for, huh? I'm
Well,
like, this is like my high school teacher level of kind of short stories that he's into. I'm like, this is
yes, we
lame.
have a morbid sense of what to use, that's for sure. They're all good, very good examples of literature. They possibly are not the choice that you would normally pick up to read. I understand that. I went back and forth between whether, should I make these all lighthearted fantasy stories? Should I just, yeah, why not? Or other things. And I kind of opted for these. I will say this. If you want to pick any other stories, you're welcome to, but that means you have to type them all in. And what I did,
unless we could find a typed version.
or if you find a typed version, or if you are an author and have written some of your own, then you're welcome to use them. I did want to try to make this a little bit easier for you to work with. So I picked ones that I could easily find 10. I wasn't going to write 10 stories or type in 10 stories myself. So I went to the New York Times and off their reading list, that's where I got these. So it's for no other reason than that, and the fact that I know they're well written. And I thought I'd put some other stories out there that perhaps you hadn't read all of them. So there's a little method to my madness on that one. But I do want to say you have an option. If you want to choose other stories, you're welcome to. But it does mean you either have to type them in yourself or find typewritten versions. That's fine. Honestly, I don't care what the stories are, but you can get a sense from the ones I picked that they need to be more than a page long. Because one of the things that this, from a design standpoint, one of the things that this assignment will showcase for you is your ability to handle large amounts of text and treat them with the idea of communication and clarity. And that should be a good contrast with our last assignment, where you also had to deal with large amounts of text. Oh, sorry, what am I doing? No, sorry, I've got our classes confused here for a minute. But it's mostly because the other reason, of course, is with inDesign, it's a multi-page document layout. So we have to be able to have large amounts of text to do that. And along those lines, the next time we meet, I'm going to introduce to you some of the features of inDesign that allow you to set styles and apply styles to a paragraph style, for example, or a subheading style, something like that. And those of you that have worked with inDesign, I think you probably have an idea of what I'm referring to. If you haven't, don't worry if that makes no sense. But why I'm bringing it up is that we need large amounts of text to do those things and have them really showcase what they do. We can't really see the advantage of doing those things if we only have short amounts of text. So if you want to pick other stories, perfectly okay with me. If you want to insert just one other story different from one of the ones I gave you, that's also perfectly okay. Honestly, I'm not, I don't think I have an opinion about what the story is, but it does need to be of similar length of the ones that I chose for you. Yeah. Okay. Jasmine, does that work for you?
I also have a question too.
Okay. Okay.
Is it supposed to be like a different story per chapter?
Great question. So now we're talking design. And so one of the, I'll talk more about that, okay? What we're gonna need to do between now and next time is I want you to start a multi-page inDesign document and flow in the stories. You should have that part done for next time. Then we'll talk about what kinds of things we can do to change them. The only thing I would tell you about ahead of time is all new stories need to begin on a right-hand page, okay? That no doubt will mean some stories will end on a left-hand page, and right on the other side of it, another story will begin. In other cases, a story will end on a right-hand page, you turn it over, it's blank, and then the next story begins. Know that all new stories begin on a right-hand side. Okay, excuse me, Madison, I think you had a question.
Are we adding pictures to them, or just it's going to be things, the words?
We will be adding pictures to them, but let's not do that yet. So we're only dealing with text to begin with.
Okay.
Hatsine?
So on the ones that I read, there were a few of them that had like in between, like randomly, like it might have been just like pasted in like links that were on whatever page you grabbed it from.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'll delete those out when I see those, but is there anything else that we need to do, like the correcting on those beforehand, or?
Yes. So a typical workflow, like if you were designing for either a magazine or a book, you would get copy from the author. Rarely would you also be the author, but you would get copy from somebody else. That copy will come to you in all manner of correctness. Most of the time, pretty sloppy. It's amazing. These people are professional writers, and they will give you all sorts of stuff that it looks like a sixth grader wrote it. You know, it's full of misspellings. It is, they've inserted just oddball typographic things like double spaces between sentences. They have rarely used the correct dashes. They might have leftover versions of their copy where they've cut and pasted within their own writing and forgot to delete the old one. Just all sorts of stuff that is absolutely not or shouldn't be published. So the first line of correcting that is you. There will also be other editors, but the publishing world has changed dramatically in even the last 5 years. So, but over the past, I'd say 15 years, it's gone from a normal workflow for a designer in the story is there would be 3 passes before 3 different editors before it got to you, or after, someplace in there. You're someplace in that depending upon the publishing house. And now that isn't the case. Now most stories go into publication going by just the designer and 1 editor. And it is the downside of that is we have all sorts of things that are in print that are full of mistakes because not as many eyes have been looking at it, and the authors have not improved their game in terms of writing. So what it means is you as the designer have to take on a bigger editing role. And so any of those kind of things that are in there you need to look at them and ask yourself, should they be there? What you would normally do is, I see Apollo, what you would normally, Paula, one of the things you would normally do is highlight those things and ask either the editor or the author about them. You wouldn't automatically delete them. You wouldn't automatically rewrite them. So in this case, I kind of want us to follow that workflow, and I'm your editor. So if you see anything in there like what you just did, there are things in there that are just random links to other pages or something like that because I got it off the internet. Should I delete them? And the answer is yes.
Okay.
The difference would be if it's in there as a part of a sentence that's essentially referencing a website.
Mhm.
You know, that would be okay. But if it's a link that's just, okay, here I have a sentence and then it has a link or something like that, no, then we take that off.
Okay. There was one where I had to read it again, that section of it. I don't remember. I want to say it was The Devil in America,
Mm-hmm.
where it kind of went back to like maybe like somebody was telling about the story, and then like gave their like suggestion about it. So then I read it and I thought, wait, that is part of the story still. It just looked like it was, you know, like in a like a different, like the outside voice of somebody, you know, saying like, hey, why did you do this or whatever. So I was just curious.
Yeah. So this has to do with, again, how we as designers can help clarify those things that otherwise would be confusing to any reader.
Okay.
So if you reading through multiple times and it seems like, oh, this is another voice that's a part of the story. It's meant to be a narrator within the story.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the case, then the question for you becomes, okay, how do I help that come across clearly? So I might decide to address that by putting the narrator's voice in a different typeface.
Okay.
Or I put the narrator's voice with more indentation. Or,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that stuff that we could do, we just probably could check with the editor being you.
Yes. So
Okay.
you check anything that seems odd to you in terms of grammar, misspelling, or things that are leftover remnants of something that was found online, or a rewrite that the author forgot to take out the other part. Any of that stuff, if then you would flag it in your own notes, that kind of thing. Then you'd have a meeting with your editor and you'd say, these are some things that came up, or send it to them one way or the other. And these are some things that have come up. What should I do with them? And they will go down your list and say, oh yeah, delete that stuff, or no, that needs to remain there. And this is the way it should be. This is its place in the story, like the narrator thing I was describing earlier.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes more, that's helpful.
Great. Madison, I think you had your hand up, maybe?
No, I was just thinking because
Oh,
I
Paul.
can't really tell different grammar, so if I have to check it, I don't think I'll be able to catch all the mistakes.
Great. Yeah, this is, so we are, our strength is not as writers. Some of you may be quite good at writing, but you're better at doing design. So this makes sense. Gavin's saying, no, I'm a better writer. But but I think that, you know, for the most part, you guys are definitely going to feel that you're better visual artists than you are artists with the written word. And so that's not your strength. So again, what you do is you flag things that seem odd to you, and you ask your editor. Your editor, I'm just playing the role here in this little play, but the regular editor that you would be dealing with, their skill is in writing. So what you're doing is drawing their attention to something that seems odd to you. And that's what we're going to do here. Okay? Paula, I know you had a question earlier. I'm sorry I skipped over you.
Oh, I didn't have a question. I'm fine. Thank you though.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, sorry. Who else? Who else has a question?
Me, sorry.
Okay, Selma, yeah.
So I still have those just general assignment questions. I don't know if I'm understanding the assignments correctly. So how do I? So how many pages are we making?
Good
Does
question.
that depend on the ones we pick?
Yeah, it depends on which stories you pick.
And we need those 3 columns, or those are just?
No, you don't have to have 3 columns, but I'm suggesting that 3 columns will allow you more design opportunities as you go along. You might have 90% of the pages, the text goes all the way across all 3 columns. But you have certain instances, let's say the title page of each story, that you treat a little bit differently according to this grid. So it's there already for you.
And are you going to show us the design stuff
Now,
afterwards?
yes, I'm going to show you more design
Because I'm
stuff.
kind of confused as to how we would design it. Like,
No,
we're
I'm
just
not.
doing a
I'm
lot
not
of
going to just
text.
throw you out there now. Yes, I'm going to show you those things.
Okay, because I'm a bit confused as to the whole assignment.
Yeah. Okay. So let me start generally, and I'll kind of get up to where we should be for next time. Okay.
Okay.
So the general goal of this assignment is for each of you to create your own book. That book will contain 5, at least 5, you might have more, but will contain at least 5 short stories. Those stories can be from the ones I supplied, or you can completely substitute different ones, or you can just change out 1 or 2. So the goal is to make that book. You're going to end up titling this book. You are the author of it. We will put all of the practical kinds of things that a book has, like a publishing company and the author's name and all. We'll have all of that in the end. Those are design things that will happen down the road. You don't have to worry about those now. You might start thinking about the name of the book now, because, and it might just, and you can change this later, but as a placeholder name for the book, because you might want it in the folio. If you feel like, no, I don't want the name of the book down there anywhere. I know what I want to call my book, but I don't want to have it in the folio. That's fine too. But it would be a reason to possibly start thinking about what the name of the book could be. So along the way, we are going to be talking about all sorts of design techniques and how to do things design-wise with a multi-page document like a book. Some of those will include these global things like styles, style sheets, paragraph styles, that kind of thing. Master pages, you know, we scratched the surface with that with the folio info. But we'll also be talking about how do we adjust color, how do we use the grid will be major, how do we do other parts of the book like a TOC or table of contents, what a colophon is, you'll have a colophon in your book, how the number of pages needs to be a multiple of 8 and why. You know, so all sorts of things in there that influence the design of a book we'll be learning about. To get there, we first need to have something to work with. And that's why between now and next time, so on Wednesday, I should say, not just Monday, but on Wednesday, you guys should all have your text from all 5 stories in an inDesign document that's flowing in there. And whether you choose to have 3 columns or not is up to you, but I am suggesting that you do put in 3 columns. And you can later change this. But I guess to start with, I'm suggesting that we do. And on Wednesday, then when we check in, you can tell me what questions, what problems you ran into, that kind of thing, and we'll adjust from there. Let's say you have no problems on Wednesday. Still check in with me, say, I'm good to go, what's next? So to tell you the truth, on Wednesday, what I'm going to start out with is the next step. Unless, of course, the majority of you are this is totally confusing once you try to do it, and then I may have to back up because I've missed something or just plain confused you. But I wouldn't worry about that too much. So Wednesday I will take a kind of reality check of where we're at. You guys will give me feedback. You're a great group for that, and we go from that point. But your goal for Wednesday is to have 5 stories placed into an inDesign document. I can think of a question. Sorry, Hatsine, I can think of one question right now that'll happen. Let's say I started out with 10 pages and I brought in 10 stories. Well, they're going to need way more than 10 pages to flow in. So I'm going to share my screen here again for us. Okay, so do I have, yeah, so I've got all the text, I think. Or don't I? Yeah, so I have all the text in there right now. There was just some spaces at the bottom. But I bring another story in, and I want to have that begin on a right-hand page. So it's going to go in here, and it flows down. Anyway, I get down to someplace in page 10, and I need more pages. So at that point, if I look up in the Pages window, in the options, it says Insert Pages. So I say Insert, and I type in the number of pages I want to add. I'm going to add in 10 more pages. And it says, do I want to insert them after page whatever, or before page whatever, at the beginning of the document, or at the end of the document? And I think in most cases, it's at the end of the document. Okay? And over here, this is the number of columns. And of course, I'm still going with an A master. So right now, when I OK this, I'll be adding 10 blank pages after page 10. So I say OK, and here we are, 10 more pages. And that takes me, let's see, It takes me down to page 20 now. Now, another option I have is, okay, I'm working with my text and I've got all of the text solid, but I decide I want a 2-page illustration between the story that goes from page 9 to page 10. So I'm going to click on page 9. I'm going to go up here again and say Insert Pages. And I'm going to insert 2 pages after page 9. So I say, okay. And now it's inserted 2 pages in there that are blank. The story's going along here. It skips over page 8 and 9 and continues over there because these are the 2 pages I just inserted. Okay. Since we are working with a double page spread, you would normally not introduce a single page at a time. You would introduce double pages. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop there. Yes, Hatsine.
Oh, sorry, I had to unmute myself. So my question is, so we're going to be placing it in there by Wednesday, but would we want to then pick our type and our point size before we do that, or when we do that, so that way, because I feel like if I don't and I'm just placing the info in there and I'm thinking about like the chapter's supposed to start in blah, blah, blah on the right side, then if I change it later, it might change where it ends up on the page, and then I'll have to redo that all again.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're totally correct. But we're not worried so much about layout right now.
Okay.
We're
so
just trying to get the text in there because we're going to make changes on the text in a different way. We're going to use styles. And so if you start massaging the text on its own like we normally are used to doing, it'll make your use of styles that much harder.
Okay, so just the way it is.
Just get the text in.
Okay.
In fact, don't even think about leaving blank pages for illustrations or anything like that.
Okay.
Do begin new stories on a right-hand page.
Does it matter like if the stories are like fictional or whatever? It doesn't really matter, right?
No.
Right. Okay.
So if you're going to do new stories other than the ones that I have there, it doesn't matter if they're funny stories or serious stories or true stories or made up stories. Any of that works just fine.
Okay.
Any other one? So I'm going to pick on a couple of you because I haven't heard from you yet. Jess, how are we doing?
We're doing good. I'm just slowly reading the stories. I only read like 6 of them so far, but I'm trying to read all of them before like I pick one. I mean, pick like at least 5 or more.
Yeah. Yes. And so I think that's good. You're taking your time reading them. That's very smart. What you might do as you're reading them, have some kind of rating system for the ones that you've read so far. Like say you've read one that, oh my God, I hate this story. I can't even finish it. So, that's got a low rating, but you've got a couple others that, oh, these are kind of interesting. They're not my favorite, but they're interesting. So maybe I give them, I don't know, a 5. And then you read something else that, oh, this is incredible. I want to read more. I want to read more by this author. So maybe I give that one a 1. So that you're kind of giving them some rating system as you're going along, instead of reading them all first and then trying to remember which ones were your favorites.
For sure.
Okay, so that's just one thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Vitsa, how are you doing? Oops, you're muted. Yep.
Yeah, I've been actually working on inDesign project that's due Sunday.
Yes, because you have an inDesign project in GD3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Production.
In
production. I was just working on it while you were like showing the stuff.
Okay, very good. And any tips or any questions or things that have come up for you guys that are in production, absolutely bring those up. Especially if it's something, I think Noah even said one there in the beginning that I forgot I was going to use the placeholder text, and I went right past it, and he reminded me to come back and use placeholder text. So don't let me go on in a way that's, there's either another way or some tip to make it easier. I absolutely want
I have a
that.
tip.
Yes, good.
You know how you did that like manual override for like the circles or squares?
Yeah.
Was it squares that were on there?
Mm-hmm.
So say you're like not on the master page and you want to like get rid of it. You're gonna do Command Shift Click, and then that will like automatically, you can move it.
Excellent. Yes. So any of the key commands, I would absolutely encourage you to use key commands as much as possible. Learn them as quickly as you can and use them. And so that's a great tip, yes. So Vitsa, I'm kind of coming back to you again, just to make sure.
I may have a question about the links. Like, how would you use the links for images? Because we have to use that, but I'm not sure how to.
Do you mean links to external things, or do you mean?
Yes, like if I want to or if I make a design in Illustrator, how would I put it in?
I understand what you mean. I understand exactly.
Like through a link.
Through the links palette or window, yes?
Yes, so I'm just gonna go there and then just find it.
No. What you're going to do is do the place command. If it's an image, you're going to make the X box, then use the place command and find the image. Then the image will show up in the X box, and then you'll see actually two different frames. You'll see kind of a light brown tan kind of box, and you'll see, I think the other one's blue, but there are two different boxes. And first, that's very confusing to most people. And the idea is that the brown one corresponds to the size of the actual image, and the other box, which I believe is blue, but I can't think of that right now, I think it's blue, that one is the X box, and that acts as a cropping. Mm-hmm. A window that I can, so for example, we are each seeing primarily just the heads of each other right now, because the grid of Zoom cuts off and crops everything else in the room, including the rest of each of us, even though we know more is there, right? So as we, I can't demonstrate that very well. I guess the inDesign is, the Xbox is kind of like the Zoom grid. It's cropping the rest of the image away.
Automatically, so I don't have to like crop it before? Or, correct. Okay.
Correct, yes and no. First, I'm talking about it the way it works between these two different boxes. So the X box is a cropping box. The brown box is the actual image. So let's say that you're seeing the X box that makes an image of just my mouth. Okay, but in fact, the image blue box is way out here. Mm-hmm. But I am only showing, I only want to see in the layout this much. So if that's the case, what I should do is go back to Photoshop, if it was the photograph, and crop down to just that part and bring in just that part. Because even though it's cropped out in inDesign, all of the rest of this information is a part of the inDesign file and making the inDesign file unnecessarily large. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we experienced a little bit of that, I think. Well, we didn't totally get to experience that because we didn't print it. But some of you certainly did start experiencing your computer slowing down on our last assignments, because there started to be more, and perhaps unnecessarily more, points there, right? So this gets to be even a bigger issue on an image where I'm only seeing this part, but I didn't crop it in Photoshop first. I brought it in and just cropped it in InDesign instead, and it looks fine. The problem is that all that other information is still a part of the file, and it's unnecessary. Okay. The other version of that would be, well, I see within the InDesign box the whole image. No, sorry. I see just this part within the InDesign box, but I want to see the whole image. So what I do is I select the points that is way out here and make it smaller so this entire thing gets shrunk down and does fit within this smaller rectangle. So I've resized it in InDesign. The problem there is
The quality.
the quality is the same, but there's just way more information there because InDesign now has to, every single time it processes the file, it has to go through the calculations of making that image smaller. And over a multi-page document that might have 1,000 pages in it, if it has to recalculate all of those, this becomes a big issue. So what's the solution? I don't know ahead of time what size I'm going to use this image in the layout. So the first time I bring it in and I decide, oh, I want it smaller. So I do resize it in InDesign. And now I measure what size that box is. So let's say it's a 3x5 box. So now what I do is I go back to Photoshop, resize it in Photoshop to be 3x5, and then flow it back into InDesign at the correct size to begin with. So InDesign isn't doing the calculations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I am absolutely certain that that did not make total sense to everyone. But those of you that are in the production class that are doing that kind of thing, hopefully that either repeats and clarifies. I'm pretty sure Shauna went over some version of this, but usually when you first hear it, it still is a little bizarro. So the more we repeat it with you, and again, it gets back to this idea of working with a lot of pages. That's when you actually see the difference. Because if you're only dealing with it on 1 or 2 pages, you can kind of get away with doing it incorrectly because you don't really see the result. So I guess to shorten all of that up is you should do the correct sizing of images in Photoshop before and then bring it in. You can't tell usually what the correct size is beforehand. You kind of play around with it in InDesign and decide, oh, I want it that size. Okay, now you have to be willing to go back out to Photoshop, resize that image, and bring it back a second time. Okay. Is it Lolly, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I think I just gotta learn how to play around with it a little more because I've never used this.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, but what we talked about today seemed clear enough?
Yeah, just get the text in.
Get the text in, yeah. Use the place command, make a text box first.
Right.
Use the place command to bring it in. Don't use cut and paste. Okay. Gavin, how about you? Where are we at here first? What land of the country, where are we?
It's a map of let's see, that's the hidden
Pangea?
there.
Go ahead.
Never mind. My question was, so like, what is the minimum length of story that we can bring in?
Oh, don't ask that question. I'm giving you a hard time, but I think a better answer is look at the shortest story of the ones I picked, and that would be the minimum.
Okay, gotta figure that. I just kind of thinking like maybe we could go shorter if we found another story. But
Oh, well, let's say that you've written a story
Mhm.
and that story is shorter than any of the ones that I've put there. As long as it's, and then I am going to answer this more seriously. So then that story, as long as it generates, let's say, at least 5 pages.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. You want to end up with a book. If we think of this more in big picture, you want to end up with a book that shows off your skill to handle a lot of text.
Mm.
So if you don't have a lot of text, then it won't do that. Okay? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Madison? You're good? You're good? Hatsine, you're good? Your cat's good?
Yeah, I just I'm sorry, I was laughing because my cat's sitting there and I was gonna move him, but then Madison is right underneath me, like in the grid.
Yes, yes.
And when she moved closer, it looked like my cat had her like half his face.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like my cat's eyes, but then like the bottom part of Madison's face. So I'm just sorry. I just
That's hilarious.
but yeah, I'm good. I think like once we get going into it, I just have had flashbacks of type 1, but
Was that, you guys did a little bit of InDesign in type 1?
yeah. Well, we did a
We did a-
book.
We did
Yeah,
a
we did
whole
like
type
a
specimen for it.
You did. You
Yeah,
did.
we did a
But
type
this,
specimen
yeah.
book. So I mean, it wasn't that much text. So I think that's the only thing is that it when you think of that much text, it is overwhelming, especially like when one of them I think was like 30 pages long.
Mhm.
But like I'll be okay.
Yeah, because actually, and that's a great type 1 assignment.
Yeah.
What it does, but you could do that assignment without using paragraph styles, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you could do it. You could get away with it. You will not be able to get away with it on this one.
It's just that's why I'm saying it's a little overwhelming when I look at that much type. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you will see the necessity of learning how to use not only the grid, but also the paragraph styles and character styles. You will also, not so much the master pages, but yes, that as well. I would think on the the typeface one, you probably didn't have to use master pages at all.
I think for our pages.
Yeah, you might have done it for
Page
that.
numbers? Yeah.
Yeah, the page numbers. Yeah. Okay, Clara, how about you?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
You're doing good? Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
In a word, yes. Okay. Megan, how are you doing?
Sorry, I was unmuting myself. I'm doing good. It's making sense. I think I just need to start working with it.
Okay. Have you read through any of the stories yet?
I've scanned through the stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a good place to be. And then, so you just need, decide which ones they are. And
Yeah.
with them. I'm going to use that little conversation to say something else. I would say that, as a designer, the majority of time, we are not working with things that we might personally choose to work with. Most of the time, we don't get that choice. Most of the time, this is a client that has brought us something. We're working for a design firm. That becomes a client for them. We're redesigning something or designing something new for them. And it might be, I'm not talking about stuff that we morally disagree with. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about interests. It might be something that's not my personal interest, and so how do you, the question for us as designers becomes, how do I treat this really well as a designer, even though the subject matter isn't something that I personally either know anything about or have an interest in? And that's a tough problem. But unfortunately, that's the majority of stuff that we really deal with as designers. It's that, you know. So learning how to, and I'm not saying that you weren't doing that, Megan, but I haven't talked about this side of things before. And it's an important one. It's a very, very important one. Paula, I have a hard time calling you Rat. I can't do it. So how are you doing?
I think right now I'm okay. I took pretty good notes, and I think I understand at least like the first part that you told us to do. I think I'm okay. But if I have a question, I will be emailing you or annoying Jasmine.
Annoying Jasmine, yes. You can annoy Crystal too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you have that other source.
Mhm.
But Jasmine's a great source here for this part. I think. What was I going to say? Yes. Take notes as you guys are working through this, and you run into different issues or questions. Jot it down, so that you know at some point in our conversations, I'm going to say, do you have any questions? So have those written down, and you can ask them. Okay. And if I happen to have already answered that question, what you should do is kind of expand to the next level. Says, oh, that was my question, you answered it, but now what about this? You know, so try to think that way. That's how you really grow fast with the whole thing. Hatsine.
I was just gonna let everybody know. I forgot to. Until right now you just said taking notes, but I was gonna say that on the website where you get like, I guess it would be the bookstore for the UOP bookstore.
Yeah.
On there, there's a link on there, and I don't remember exactly what it's called, but I can share it with you if you want to send it out to everybody, or if anybody wants to look for it on there. But it's with what's going on with COVID-19, they're doing a download for up to 5 ebooks. So I downloaded the most recent. I downloaded the most recent InDesign and Illustrator, like the classroom in a book, and it's from the most recent ones that they have. So you can do like up to 5 of them, but I just downloaded that. So like if you ever needed to like look up something, you're like, I have no idea how to do this, then there's like the textbook version of it. So, and they were free.
This is the classroom in the books, right?
Yes.
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 So that is an excellent resource.
It's only for a few months, like during like this time, but I thought it was a really good, deal, because it's helpful while we're in, session right now this way.
Yeah, and good thing to kind of refer to as we're learning these things, because you certainly don't want to be in the position where one little thing that you can't do is holding up the whole process. So having any of those resources, yes. I typically like to put those additional resources on the assignment page. So if you want to send me that link, I'll be sure to add it there.
Yeah, I can do that. I just downloaded it, and it basically just asked for your student email and that kind of stuff. But it's nice to kind of have, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Yes. Okay. Thanks. Melanie?
I'm doing well. I just took notes as well, and just have to start working on it. I also chose 5 stories.
You've got yours chosen. Very good. Okay. Yeah, then you are ready to just start that flowing things in. Okay. Selma?
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, you've been asking some good questions. So did they get answered, or you?
Oh yeah. I was like, okay, so yeah, you answered my questions. So
Well, you just now have other questions.
I think, yeah, I just need to go actually do it, because as of right now, a little bit confusion, but I think that's you already answered the questions I had. Now I'm just confusion without question. but I think like that's, yeah, I think I just need to figure it out, and I'll figure it out.
Okay, well, if you want to hang out a little bit after we end here, I'll see if I can help a little bit with some of those, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, that's up to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Noah, how about you?
Yeah. I haven't picked all of the stories yet, but I've read one of them previously, so I know that one's going on.
Which is
I don't.
Which is the one you've read before?
What's that?
Oh, sorry.
I think it froze.
Which one had you read before?
The one that I read before was "A Good Man Is Hard to Find."
Oh, okay, good. Again, I should repeat this for all of you, but if there are any of these stories or they don't add up to 5 that you feel comfortable working with, you certainly can pick other ones to substitute. That's okay. Okay. But you feel like you're good to go with how to get to the next step? No?
Yeah, I'm ready to go on to the next step.
Okay, good. How about you, Nathan?
I'm pretty good. I just need to make sure there's space and then download inDesign so I can start fooling around with it. But
all right.
I should be able to do that either tonight or tomorrow morning. Like figure out what's up with that. But I'm not worried about it. I think it should be fine.
Okay, do you have a lot of photographs or maybe music on your computer?
Yeah, and I remember it was a problem when I was trying to download Illustrator. So I'll just have to deal with that again.
Do you have an external drive?
Yeah, I can move some to external drive. I can use my brother's. But yeah.
Okay, or maybe think, I know it's another expense, but see if you might want to order another drive, because if you're having those kind of issues now, that issue is going to persist and maybe even just get worse as we go forward. So it might be well worth investing in another external drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
For sure.
Or anything you can store in the cloud. Right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you guys will have to clarify this for me, but I think you all have some storage space through Pacific, some cloud storage space. Isn't that right? Gavin, yes. How do you access that?
I know that I mostly just use my Google account and use the Google Drive that is associated with my Pacific account.
Okay, so storing things there,
yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's not a huge amount of space, but it is another spot, right?
Or you could always create a couple more Google accounts that you don't really need.
You could always do that, yes.
And then don't we also get OneDrive? I think OneDrive.
Oh yeah, that's right. We do get OneDrive.
It has more storage as well.
So those might be some other alternatives for you at the moment, Nathan. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. I think that's everybody, right? Okay. So actually, Megan, could you hang out for just a minute after we close? Selma, you're welcome to hang out for a minute after we close to make sure that if there's any questions you have. If not, that's fine too. But Megan, hang out for sure, because I think we might have some registration things still to deal with.
Okay.
And any of the rest of you that, because of the changes in classes, we had to drop 3 classes there. So I think that most of you were already onto another plan. But if that still is something that you need to talk about or figure out a different solution, stay on and we'll see what we can do there. Okay. Otherwise, I think Wednesday we all should check in just if it's, even if it's just to make sure we got through this stage of bringing text in, and then we'll go from there. Okay?
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. All right. See you.